It is somewhat unpopular in Korea, but it is in the top 10 worldwide. Guide to Love is probably on the list because it's set in Vietnam. Vietnam is an Asian country, so it should be familiar, but watching this movie made it new to me. It definitely feels like a Chinese culture, but it has its own culture. Amanda Rachel Ray Cook works at a travel agency and her boyfriend asks her to come over for dinner instead of making plans. She doesn't think much of it, but when her boss finds out, he says it must be a proposal because they've been together for 5 years. Amadon comes home with high hopes, but her boyfriend tells her that he's not proposing, he's breaking up with her. He says he's moving on to another job and that's it. It just so happens that the company has an offer to sell to a company in Vietnam. They needed someone to go and see how it was run and guide them. Amanda decided to take this opportunity to clear her head, travel, and do some research. Upon arrival, she loses her bag and is at a loss for words when Shin Scott Lai comes out of the travel agency. When he tries to find his bag in the lost and found, he can't make any sense of it, but Shin says he'll figure it out. I don't trust Shin because he's different from the usual guides, but I don't care. Most importantly, he doesn't take you to the obvious places in Vietnam like a traditional guide. He takes us to places he plans and thinks are good, so it doesn't even feel like a tour guide at first. It's a group trip with the people you're with, but it's a small group, less than 10 people. I look at the other teams and they're traveling together in a big bus and Amanda's team is not, so I feel like I'm being treated less. Where God takes you is where you really see Vietnam, and it's not for tourists. It's a tour that shows you how Vietnamese people really live. It's called a tour, but it doesn't feel like that at all. It's more like where the locals really go. Amanda also travels with us and is constantly evaluating whether or not she should take over the company. They're traveling together, and they're kind of bickering, but they're slowly warming up to each other. How they will or won't connect is what drives the movie's conclusion. Traveling has a way of making you a different person. Not only do you go into it with a different mindset, attitude, and demeanor, but you spend money. You always approach it with an open mind and an attitude of enjoying yourself, and that's what makes new experiences so exciting. From that perspective, it was a great choice for Amanda to travel to Vietnam. Usually when you have a couple like this, it's usually a white male and an Asian female. This time, it was a male Asian and a female Caucasian, so I thought it was a little unusual. I guess you could say it's different because he's so tall and speaks good English. I think that's the beauty of traveling and being open to meeting new people. I've heard a little bit about Vietnam, but I've never seen it in detail, and this movie is a great way to learn. When a motorcycle passes by, it never stops for people because there are no traffic lights. Instead, on any road, if someone wants to cross the road, they will stop one by one and let them through. This is how I learned about Vietnam, which is why the movie is so popular around the world. Here's how Netflix describes it. An American travel executive travels to Vietnam on a business trip. He meets a free-spirited tour guide who teaches him how to turn life into a beautiful adventure through new experiences.